Basically, a few weeks ago, my husband, Greg, not his real name, asked me for a paternity test for the kids, and before I could even say anything, started ranting about statistics and how apparently 60% of men find out the kids they thought were theirs actually aren't, and if I don't do it, he wants a divorce. He straight up just blurted all of that out in less than a minute or two, scrolled some pages on his iPad, and then stood there like, well, what do you have to say for yourself? I was in the middle of making dinner for us and breastfeeding one of the babies, and I told him that I would never cheat because I'm not a piece of crap, and this conversation shouldn't be had in front of our children. He got mad and walked off. I finished dinner and asked our oldest to watch the twins for about 10 minutes while I talked with Dad. I was watching from the nanny cam the entire time as well, but didn't want our oldest son to hear this conversation and asked my husband to meet me in the garage. I asked him where these cheating accusations are coming from, and he said he doesn't think I would cheat, but he wants to make sure his children are his. FYI, I have never slept with another man. I've never even kissed or went on a date with anyone besides my husband. I've never even seen anyone else's private parts besides his, just to drive the point home. On top of that, he cheated during both of my first pregnancies, and it took years for me to work through that and get over it, but this just brought it all back up again. I told him he should do what brings him peace, but he thinks I should pay for the DNA tests, even though I make much less money than him because it's my fault for him needing one. I told him that's his own insecurity, or maybe guilt because he knows he doesn't deserve a loyal wife, but that he can get it done and I'm not paying for it. That was then. I guess in the time that has passed, he had it done and it came back that all of our kids are his, obviously. I'm black with dark skin, eyes, and hair, and he's white with ginger hair and green eyes. All of our children have his red hair and hazel eyes, but a mix of our skin tones. Instead of apologizing or just saying he wanted some reassurance, he said, "So I found out you're not a S," even without checking to make sure our kids weren't around to hear that type of language. I tried not to react too much, but over the next few hours, I just got angrier and angrier and packed a bag and told him to enjoy fathering his children for a few days by himself, because I'm going to stay with my sister until I make a decision about this marriage. He's been blowing up my phone ever since and is now doubling down on his cheating accusations. I'm so tired of coddling his insecurities our entire marriage. And after I left, my son texted me and said he doesn't think I'm what Dad called me. And after calling him and talking to my oldest, he was indeed just around the corner and heard his father call me an S. So he Googled it and figured out what it meant. I don't even know what to do. Of course, this isn't like the first time I've considered leaving him, but he's all I know. I want to try to move past this and maybe even try couples therapy. But honestly, right now I'm still just mad. Like the audacity to accuse me of some foul stuff like that after everything he put me through is infuriating. What do I do? Edit. For further context, the first time he cheated, he kissed a coworker after a holiday party and fessed up as soon as he got home. The second time was online stuff like esting strangers, etc. His excuse for the first was that he was drunk, and the second was that he was insecure because of stereotypes about black men, etc. Even though I've never even slept with another black person, so yeah. Along with him admitting to be jealous of the babies during my pregnancies because they get more of my attention. I have my own set of issues with confrontation and trying to avoid it, which didn't help any. Copy-paste of my comment that adds more to it, I guess. When I tell you he did everything right, he did everything right up until we already gotten married and I was 6 months pregnant. I wanted to wait until marriage for intercourse, and he happily obliged. My parents loved him, of course, not anymore. And everyone said I was mature for my age, and it got to me, I guess. He worked at my father-in-law's firm, and I interned there in college, and one thing led to another. I graduated high school early and did early college, but was being dumb and love-struck and ended up pregnant and married instead of furthering my education. Even when the first cheating thing happened, he came home drunk and came clean right after. It wasn't a full-on affair, but making out with a coworker after a holiday party. I was paranoid and again immature at that time, and went through all of his devices for months to see if it was anything else, or if they were still in contact, and it wasn't. I talked to her husband a few months later too, and their stories did match up, so I figured a kiss wasn't worth divorcing over when I had a baby on the way. When our first came, he did all the night changings and feedings. He cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me every day before he left for work, and gave me an allowance of $50 a day, along with going to therapy, so yeah. Then the second pregnancy happened, and it happened again. But this time it was some dating app, and esting with strangers, and he swore nothing happened in person. I was ready to leave that time, but my mom told me I would be stupid to allow myself to become a single mom, and he made all these other lifestyle changes, so I thought maybe it wouldn't happen again. Show Greg the door, and go on with your life. His vehemence about you cheating sounds like projection to me. I bet he's currently cheating on you, and this is his smokescreen. Or it might be one of his affair partners is actually pregnant, or had a kid by him, and it's made him paranoid. Either way, file for divorce and child support. There is no saving this marriage, and couples counseling will just make things worse because he isn't going to do the work. Just use the language to further degrade you. My guess would be that he's cheating again and projecting it on you. Honestly, if not for your own sake, then for your children's well-being, please get out of this relationship. It's terrible for you, and it's not healthy for them to be exposed to his verbal aggression and misogyny. He's projecting his guilt onto you, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's cheating again because he seems to be looking for an excuse to leave. Update. I went back home and confronted my husband about cheating. I'm not very good at accusations when I'm not sure, so I just pulled on the anger I had when I found out he was cheating previously, and said I knew he was doing it again, and I know all about her yada yada, and if he lies to me one more time, he will be homeless. Note, the probability of him having a side piece that was pregnant was pretty low because he got snipped, vasectomy, after our twins were born. I was there when it happened, and helped ice his balls after, so yeah. His reaction was very different than other times, as it was usually immediately him owning up to it, or crying and apologizing. This time it was confusion and laughter, and him saying he didn't do anything since the last time I know about. He had sent the kids to his parents' house, so I went in, got all of his stuff, phone, laptop, iPad, Apple Watch, etc., and looked for anything I could find. I didn't find anything at all. I checked the trackers we have on our kids' belongings. Yes, I'm one of those moms. The last time I mentioned this on a Facebook group, I got banned, but I do trackers in their coats, bags, and shoes. I need to know where my kids are to even be able to breathe. And the previous geolocations, and there's no extra stops outside of his work commute. He doesn't work any late hours, has 2 friends, and they're lesbians that think he's low-key ugly. His only male friends live out of the state, and when I read their messages, there were some crude mentions of him having only had sex with 1 woman for the past 13 years, but at least it's always good. I told him how I felt about the paternity thing, and how the accusations came off. I told him I wanted a divorce, and he can happily go be with whoever it is that has him questioning the only person who's ever been loyal to him for over a decade. When I mentioned divorce, he started freaking out and saying he would never do that to me, etc., etc. And I asked then why did he mention a divorce when asking about paternity? He said he just wanted it to scare me into letting him do it. Why would I even care? So, according to him, this was all just because he saw some videos and comments online, and he got scared. And he feels insecure because I never cheated back. Because, apparently, he thought that throughout the years I would cheat on him to get back, because that's what he had done in previous relationships, and he thought it was human nature to get even with a cheater. I told him that didn't make sense to me at all, and honestly, sounds stupid. Because if revenge is what I wanted, why wouldn't I just leave? I didn't stay because I had to. I stayed because I loved him. I could have easily ran off back to my parents, or just lived on my own. He apologized a lot and said he'd do whatever it takes to make up for it. But I just told him that I'm really tired of hearing his worthless apologies, especially at risk of upsetting my kids' foundation for becoming healthy adults. So, yeah, I'm still not sure if I believe he isn't cheating, because it feels way too insane to come at me over some BS he saw online. Then I brought up the fact that our son heard what he said, and he started apologizing a lot for saying it, since he has never spoken to me like that before, and he's obviously robbed our son of some innocence. He said he sat him down and talked to him, and told him it's a horrible word that shouldn't be used, and especially never used towards women, and that daddy has problems. And when I FaceTimed our son to talk about how he's feeling right now, and asked if he had ever heard us fighting before, he said no, which is why he texted me about what his father said, because he thought I would be upset since we never argue. At the least, I have peace of mind knowing I haven't been the crappiest mom on earth. But in the event he actually isn't cheating, I'm even more confused on what to do. To do all of this over an insecurity about someone not cheating. Because apparently how loyal I am to him makes him insecure because of things he's done in the past. I asked him what would ease that for him, and he said he didn't know either. When I asked my mom for advice, like for real this time, and told her everything, I asked her what she would do, and she gave me this very, girl, you know the answer to that look. But my mom is from a when I found him cheating, I beat him with a cast iron pan, and it never happened again generation. So, obviously, cannot take her advice. I'm 29. And have recently gotten engaged to my longtime boyfriend, Seth. We're set to get married in about 7 months and have just started sending out invitations. From the very beginning, we agreed that we'd have a child-free wedding because we've heard too many horror stories about kids screaming during the ceremony, running around during the first dance, or just acting inappropriately in general. Because of this, we've decided to make it a requirement to be age 15 or over to attend. Seth comes from a very large family. He has 6 siblings and 17 nieces and nephews, so this rule mostly applies to them. Of the 17, 9 will be under the age of 15 at the time of the wedding. Additionally, some of them are very immature and poorly behaved due to their parents constantly coddling them. They were part of the reason why Seth wanted a child-free wedding in the first place. When we told Seth's siblings about the rule, some of them weren't happy, but they accepted it. However, my sister completely flipped out. For context, my sister has 2 kids, a son, Henry, who's 16, and a stepdaughter, Valerie, who's 13. She accused me of trying to exclude Valerie from the wedding purposefully because she's not her biological child, and insinuated that I didn't invite her because I don't consider Valerie my real family. Apparently, Valerie is extremely upset that Henry was invited and she wasn't. So she's been locking herself in her room and fighting with my sister and her husband about how she doesn't feel accepted in the family. I told my sister that it was nothing personal, and Valerie not being invited had nothing to do with her being a stepchild, and it was purely due to her age. My sister didn't listen to me and insisted that I invite Valerie. But I told her that if I made an exception for her, I'd have to make exceptions for Seth's siblings as well, which would defeat the purpose of a child-free wedding. My sister then tried to argue that in 7 months, Valerie will be 14 in 5 months, which is basically 15 according to her, and that she's very mature for her age and won't cause issues. I told her that I agree Valerie almost 100% won't be a problem during the ceremony or reception. However, like I said earlier, if I made an exception for her, Seth's siblings would demand exceptions for their own children, and we'd cause a lot of rifts in the family. My sister finally said that I was being a heartless bridezilla who doesn't consider stepchildren as real children, even though that is absolutely not true, and that she wouldn't attend at all if Valerie couldn't. I said that it was ultimately her decision and that I'd respect it either way, but my mom is pressuring me to just let Valerie attend and to not cause a fight. Seth suggested I come here, so am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are treating Valerie exactly like every other relative under 15. If her mom's not comfortable including one kid but not the other, then like you said, she's welcome to stay home. If she wants to throw a tantrum over not being the exception to the rules, then the drama is entirely on her and it can stay with her. Bump it up to 18 and have her leave both kids home. Not the a-hole. Child-free means child-free. If you cave into your sister's and mother's demands, it is going to cause hard feelings with your fiancés and his family. Your sister needs to get over herself and explain to her stepdaughter that no one under 15 is allowed at the wedding. If they are upset, there's nothing you can do but move on. I have a 21-year-old stepdaughter who I've been in the life of since she was 2 years old, when I began to date her father, and when she was 5, I became her stepmother. My husband and his ex-wife live in the same town, so my stepdaughter would always alternate houses every week, and despite her being an adult now, we're still close. She is marrying her boyfriend of 5 years in May. I know for a fact that they can't afford to get her dream dress, as she's talked to me about it. I have a good job, and I love her like she's my own daughter, so I told her I'd buy her whatever dress she wanted as my wedding gift to her. My husband was there when I made the offer and has no problem with it, so that isn't a concern. The issue, however, came up when her mother found out. She came round demanding to know where I got off offering to buy her daughter a wedding dress, and that I had no right to do this, and what if she'd wanted to buy the dress. I did feel bad about this and suggested we each pay half of the dress, but she isn't happy with this and said she can't afford the kind of dress I could, and now I've gotten my stepdaughter's hopes up for any dress she wants. I suggested that she just pay what she is comfortable paying, and I'd cover the rest, and she can just assume her mother and I went half on it, but this was also shot down. My husband asked her what exactly she expected then, and she thinks I should withdraw the offer entirely. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, as I'm not going to be letting my stepdaughter down, but I don't know how else I can make this right. My husband ended up kicking his ex-wife out of our house and calling her unreasonable, and that she should remember this isn't about her, but I feel guilty over upsetting her. I didn't think it was out of line to offer this, as I've been part of my stepdaughter's life for 19 years. Was I out of line with this? I'm worried this could cause drama on the day. Not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter's mom is making this about her personal insecurities instead of about what's best for her daughter. Shame on her. If there's any drama on the day of, it's all on her. You haven't done anything wrong. Not the a-hole. What an incredibly generous gift. Despite what your husband's ex clearly thinks, you are one of the parents of the bride. Maybe she can pay for the flowers or something different. Don't let her talk you out of it, though. She'd rather her daughter go without versus you paying for it, which is incredibly selfish. Your husband is right. This is supposed to be about your daughter and not her mom. Not the a-hole. Bio mom is jealous and her selfishness is only hurting her daughter. I would suggest considering not paying for the dress, but instead giving a check towards the wedding. That way, it can be used for the dress, while hopefully lessening the drama.